Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of What's Next with We. This episode is part of the innovation series where we discuss innovations happening in different industries and explore what's next in that space. Today we have a really special guest, Mr. Atul Monga, who is the founder at Basic Home Loan, who he and his team are revolutionizing the home loan experience for Bharat. Quite an interesting solution. We'll get to obviously hear more in this episode. I'm Vishal Ramaswamy, the V in What's Next with V, your host as always. Atul, jumping right in, pretty interesting story that you have. Obviously, you graduated from one of the premium institutes in the country, post which worked at large companies, worked at startups, did investment banking as well, most kind of sought after roles post graduation, and then you kind of became a founder in the fintech space. So I'm sure the listeners would like to understand your story. So Atul, once again, welcome to What's Next with We. Over to you.
Thanks, Vishal. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. As you just mentioned, means I started as my career means after graduating from IIT Delhi in 2009, and I got a job which people generally run after. At least at that time, at
True,
that time, tech was not the most you can say sought out role. At that time, people were running after investment banking.
true.
So worked as an investment banker with a bulge bracket bank, Credit Suisse, in Asia primarily in Singapore and Hong Kong. So worked in financial institutions group, worked with a lot of banks and insurance companies for their M&As, IPOs. And in the later part of my career as an investment banker, I worked a lot with fintech companies. Means it was 2011 and 12 at that time. A lot of Chinese startups were getting listed. So working with those entrepreneurs, getting their company listed, actually ignite that passion in you also that you should also do something. And
True.
that was the time when Indian startup ecosystem was also getting strengthened.
Correct.
And my brother also just sold his company to Snapdeal at that time.
Wow.
So and again, I have many entrepreneurs in my family. My brother again sold his one more company to Flipkart recently.
Wow.
So and my cousin, he was the founder of Jaipur.com. He got a successful exit. So starting up was not a taboo in my family, which a lot of people face. So thankfully, I didn't have that kind of hindrance for me. So in 2015, shifted back to India and started working in Indian fintech space. Worked with many companies. My last role was, I was managing mortgages through affiliates at Policy Bazaar, Paisa Bazaar, and it's been now 8 years in Indian fintech space, and primarily I worked on mortgages. So while working for these years, I realized that a lot of innovation has happened in India on the lending side, but that's primarily restricted to unsecured loans, that is personal loans or business loans. But if you see any bank, majority of their retail banking or lending revenue comes from mortgages. Mortgages are also long tenured, they are secured, especially affordable housing side where we operate. So it's something which lacked that kind of innovation. It's such a big market. In fact, on 13th August this year only, there was a quote from Mr. Deepak Parekh that by 2025 or maybe next 2 3 years, it will be a $600 billion market.
Wow.
That's the size of this market, and there is no innovation happening. So with that in mind, and especially for tier 2 tier 3 cities in affordable housing segment, we thought that it's a clearly wide space, so something can be built around it with through technology. A new entrant can disrupt the market, so that's how it started Basic. And now it's been 2 years in our journey. We are growing every month, and now we're present in around 30 cities, disbursing close to 300 crores of monthly loans, and looking forward to grow further, to reach more cities and more customers.
Insane, Atul, insane story. I think your story from your graduation days, from there working at investment banking and seeing your family members having successful startup journeys, startup exits. I think that has motivated you, maybe rubbed off in a nice way for your journey to take place. So, segueing to my next question, I think you obviously touched upon the problem that you're solving for, basically providing mortgage loans to the underserved, underpenetrated markets. You discussed about the problem, but I thought I just want to dig deeper. So Atul, it would be good if you could go a little bit more deeper into the exact problem you're solving yes, I'm sure people would know going to the nearest banks, applying for a home loan is as easy as it is, but it's not, right? So would be good
Yeah.
if you could elaborate the problem that you're solving a little bit more further.
Okay. See, if you see the data, in India, 60% of home loans are done in top 5 or 6 states. And RBI gives you state-wise data. I'm very sure if it is on a city basis, it will not be more than 10 cities. So, so this shows that there is a lot of skewness in mortgages in India. And the primary reason for that is that number one, the mortgages are not online, and they're not online because in a mortgage you are not just evaluating the person, you are also evaluating the asset. And in our country we don't have a centralized database of properties. I
Hmm.
cannot send an API request and get to know whether the property is legally okay and technically built according to the plan or map as per in Delhi DDA, or maybe in Mumbai as per Mahada or any other regulatory body. So someone has to actually go offline. Now when this offline element comes, so most of the banks operate, or housing finance companies operate through branches. And a branch-led ecosystem don't allow them to penetrate deeper into tier 2, tier 3 cities. Now if I see from the customer's perspective, if a customer has to take a loan, especially in affordable housing segment, so if he goes to a bank branch, see, banks have fixed costs, as we mentioned, that they operate through branches. So
True.
a banker's intention, or housing finance company's executives intention, is always to do a big ticket loan. So affordable housing loan customers are generally neglected. So they used to reach out to these direct selling agents of the bank or intermediaries who used to charge them exuberant amount of processing fee, which is actually illegal also to some extent, that you cannot take money from someone to get him a loan. But that kind of practices were there in the market. So with and again, the experience overall which customer had working with the bank was not that pleasant. And there was low branch penetration, and then there was no focus, or not too much focus from the bank side to help that customer. And thirdly, experience or the journey of the customers are broken. So these are the major problem we are solving. And by the way, affordable housing loans form part of priority sector lending in India. So every bank has to maintain 40% of their books in PSL. So most of them, what they do is that for the complete year they keep on doing big ticket loans, and at the end of the year they buy books from small HFCs. So if you
Hmm.
see, that's the reason every big Indian business conglomerate or business house will have at least presence in housing finance. Means there are total around 100 housing finance companies in India. That's the reason, because people know that you just have to make a book, season it for 2 3 years, and then someone would be ready to buy it out. So from the
Hmm.
bank's perspective, if I see, it's a risk to the bank that they're buying a book which is not done according to their policy, and that too at a premium. And the final
Got it.
ecosystem player, which we are trying to solve problem for, is the builder. So a lot of affordable housing projects are coming in the market, and the builders want to sell them quickly, because a builder will not be able to book his revenue till the time the loan of the customer is not done. Today
Correct.
about 90-95% of the people take home loan. So penetration of mortgages is increasing, although it's have been very low historically, but it is increasing. So just to summarize, so these are the four ecosystem players for whom we are trying to solve problem. First is the customer, whom we are trying to provide options, fulfillment support, reach in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and probably a better experience. For builders, we are trying to reduce their TAT. We are trying to get them a better service to their customers, with proper customer convenience and all. Thirdly, to the banks, we want to help them in building PSL books, and with proper fraud control. And finally, the agents also are part of the ecosystem. Means, so agents just don't want to cheat customer without any reason. They do it
True.
because they just want to earn higher. So these are
Correct.
the four ecosystem players for whom we are trying to solve a problem. We're trying to build technology around them, so that the end customer, the banker, the agent, the builder, they get a good experience.
Understood, Atul. Obviously, we'll dig deeper into your solution a bit further in the podcast. Just wanted to maybe lay the landscape also for our listeners. Obviously, you mentioned that the affordable housing loan market is a huge market, as you mentioned, I think 600 odd billion. So if you could
That's for
lay the,
total. That's for total home loan market.
okay,
Affordable home loans are about 50% of the overall market.
noted, got it. So on the same note, I'm sure government is also pushing housing for all. I
Yeah.
think you have the central government pushing across the nation at the same time, wanting banks to maybe have a certain book to lend towards affordable housing. would be Atul, since you're in that ecosystem, would be good to hear your thoughts on how government is looking at the space.
Okay. See, Mr. PM, RPM Modi's, I think one of the favorite topic or favorite agenda is always having housing for all.
True.
And the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is something which, he's always tried to push forward in his policy, as well as, in every budget, there is something coming out on it. So, yeah, see, the thing is, India has the highest homeless population in the world. It's a fact. 17% of world's homeless population stay in India, and 97% of these people are into economically weaker sections or low income group. So, if you go to Mumbai, if you come to Delhi, if you, go anywhere in India, slums are common. So
True.
this is the problem I'm talking about. That's the problem government also want to solve. So, as part of a return policy, government has made sure that this affordable housing loans will be part of priority sector lending, along with various other lending products. So every bank has to maintain, as I mentioned earlier, 40% of their books towards priority sector lending. So yes, there is a clear push from government to increase this segment, to promote housing among everyone. In fact, during COVID also, a lot of new schemes were launched by the government, like affordable housing rental projects. So a lot of those things have been pushed. So overall market in India, in previously, if you see, as part of GDP, mortgages is just 10 or 11% currently. But if you see any developed economy, mortgage or allied activities form about 60-65%. So
Insane. Yeah.
this clearly shows that mortgage needs to be penetrated to overall growth of the GDP also. So
True.
government is working on it, and the steps which government is taking, we believe that this will be constructive in growing this sector.
Awesome, Atul. I think good tailwinds, as you can see, right, for this sector.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
good for us.
as you mentioned, the mortgage loan, at the same time, insurance as well. Insurance penetration in the country is less. Are
Yeah,
you doing anything in the insurance space for this sector?
we cross sell home loan insurance, and but it's not something we actually go out in market and try to sell. It's just a
Got it.
cross sell for us.
Understood. Atul, jumping into the most important part, your solution. I think you've tried to revolutionize the industry, disrupt certain work streams in this entire home loan experience. And you also touched upon those four ecosystem players that you're helping. So, Atul, if
Yeah.
you could break it down to our listeners on the solution first and how that solution is benefiting each ecosystem player, and maybe also talk about the technology aspects at the back
Yeah.
end on what you're using and what you're implementing.
Okay. See, if I break down a journey of mortgage or any home loan, it has some fixed steps. So first is origination, then matching the customer to the right product, then documentation, then you have the loan processing, and finally the final disbursement documentation. So when we started, we thought of that what all can we digitize. See, there
True.
are few things which we cannot do because it needs a change in ecosystem, like the centralized database of properties. I cannot build that database, and in fact, it's very difficult in India to build, because we have, and we have different type of properties. People are living in a house from it's the traditional house they're living since ages. Many don't even have papers for those houses. So we thought of, okay, what should we do? So we adopted a phygital approach. So till sanction, or you can say the processing of the loan, as I mentioned, everything is done online on our platform. And the last stage where you have to do disbursement, where we actually utilize our agents to do the documentation for customer. So how we work is that we have three major sources of customer acquisition. When we started, we thought that no one goes in market to buy a home loan. People go in market to buy a house.
True.
So we tied up with property dealers, we tied up with chartered accountants, we asked them to monetize their referral, give their customers to us. So for example, a property dealer is selling a property with a brokerage of say 1%. We told them that okay, just charge 0.75%. So you become more competitive among your peers. Customer has to pay low. And if that customer take home loan through me, I'll give you some money. So you will earn more than 1%. So basically, it's a win-win for all. So that's our influencer model. Similarly, a CA can refer their customers to us and monetize the referral. Then second is a direct online channel, which is you can say a web aggregator channel, or people who have been working in the web aggregator space, that they originated the customer, but then we do the fulfillment for that customer rather than just giving the leads to bank. We do the fulfillment. And third, we have directly tied up with builders. We give them our technology, we give them our CRM, so that their sales team is carrying my app. Whenever they sell a property, they can match the customer to the right product, and then they can refer that customer to me, so that my agent can do the fulfillment. Now, once we get the customer, we have actually built a product eligibility matrix in house, where what we have done is we have digitized the credit policies of various banks. So now we work with about 50 banks. So we have credit policies of these 50 banks digitized on our platform. So, there was a problem in market for customer, that if we go directly to a bank branch, till the time he will not pay a processing fee, he will not get to know the hard offer.
True.
Bank can tell you that, okay, this is my ROI range, this is my tenure and all, but the hard offer is only provided once you have paid the processing fee, because the bank has worked on your application. So now it's not a financially wise decision, and nor it's a very convenient decision for customer to go to 10 banks and then
True.
pay there, get the offer, compare on Excel. So then second option to the customer is to go to a web aggregator. Now, the first question which customer had was that what is the right bank for me? But
Mm.
web aggregator give your leads to multiple banks, and now
Correct.
all these banks start calling you that I'm best for you. So that first question is not even answered. So
Mm.
we have
True.
come up with this approach that, okay, what a credit manager is doing in his office, let's digitize it. So, when you give your application to bank, a credit manager, they have a junior staff who put your data into Excel sheet, and a CAM is prepared, which is nothing but a ratio analysis. So that can be digitized very easily. So
True.
when a customer comes to us, my agent along with my app, is a complete branch for the customer. He will put your details. So we take demographic data, we take financial data, we take even the property data, because for a mortgage, matching of property is also important according
That's
to
true.
credit policy of the bank. And then we even fetch your CIBIL score as well as CIBIL data, and then we create these CAMs where we do FOIL analysis, we do all the ratio analysis, LTV calculations, and then show you offer. In fact, we are so proud of our technology that we are one of the few fintech companies in India that we give guarantee of our job. My login to sanction rate with this product eligibility is more than 70%. So,
Wow.
we tell our customers that if in two applications we are not able to get you a home loan, then you take it from anywhere. Your first EMI will be paid by us.
Oh,
And
that's
till
amazing.
date, we have not paid it for anyone, because we were
Awesome.
able to close the application in second time.
Awesome.
Now, once the matching is done, then we have built paperless login facilities across the banks where we work. So my agent can apply on your behalf to these banks paperlessly. You don't have to go out of your house. The customer just sits at home. So for a customer, it's a convenient experience. Sitting at home, you are applying to multiple banks. And then once the application is sanctioned in next 24 48 hours, maximum 48 hours, we get sanctions in most of the banks. Then my agent will collect the documents, give it to the bank credit manager or the branch, and will get you the final check. So this is our overall process. We call it a phygital approach because till sanction it's completely digital. And finally, we have a physical element where the documentation is done by agent. So that's why it's a phygital approach.
Awesome, Atul. I think pure disruption at various work streams, right? So I think, and these kind of experiences you typically don't associate with Bharat.
Yeah.
Typically in metros, yes, you kind of get elements of this, but providing this to Bharat is, I think, a phenomenal experience that you are providing. One critical element, Atul, that comes that you had mentioned are these agents that work for you.
Yeah.
Agents typically have a negative connotation in our country. So just want to understand how your agents, how do you train your agents? What are the profiles of these agents? Would be good for listeners to hear that.
Okay. See, my agents are educated people. They are, chartered accountants. And then, in fact, recently we have started some programs where we, in tier two, tier three cities, a lot of B schools are there, but people don't get any employment after it.
True,
Means, how these B schools work. They
true.
just take money from the students. So we reach out to these B schools. We get their students, we train them, and we ask them to be an entrepreneur. We'll give you customers. You just have to do the end-to-end fulfillment for our customer.
Nice.
And in order to ensure that my agents are working properly, they have to follow instructions in my app. So we have gamified their approach, that they have to follow fixed steps. If they don't do it, I don't pay them. So I
Mm.
don't think anyone will go rogue just for the sake of not earning and not working according to our app.
True.
If I give a example, or if I relate to something, you can think of it in this way, that before Ola or Uber, taxis had the same kind of, although they have some kind of problem still, but at that time also, Ola and Uber never created new taxi drivers initially, at least in the beginning. They
Correct.
reached out to the existing taxi drivers, trained them, gave them an app, and standardized their approach. So
True.
that's how I'm just standardizing the agents. I'm through technology so that their behavior is predictive, and we know that any agent can be replaced by any other agent. So they have to follow fixed steps. So
Got it.
that's what we are building in technology around the agents.
Great, Atul. I think I pick up 2 points. One is you're training the local talent there,
Yeah.
from CAs to, it could be lawyers, could be existing investment professionals there, and MBA students. Yeah, go
Just to
ahead, Atul.
mention one point here, see in India, if you have to sell insurance, you need to have a certification from IRDA.
Correct.
If you want to sell mutual funds, you have to be registered with MP. But
Correct.
for loans, there is no certification required. So
Oh,
anyone in India can become a DSA with bank and start selling loans, and they start cheating people. So what we have done is, as part of our operations, we have a small, you can say, team. We call it Basic Academy, where we are training agents. We give them training for process, product, technology, and as well as soft skills. So as we grow, we want to promote this also, because we want to create awareness in market that if a agent is carrying a basic agent academy trained batch, so you can trust on that agent, at least for home loans.
awesome, Atul. I think you're standardizing that entire home loan agent piece. And I
Yeah,
think that gamification layer that you have added will kind of ensure nobody goes rogue. So I think that's a nice way to protect the experience as well. At the same time, controlling your agents.
yeah,
So I think that's also another disruption, right? People typically don't think about all these steps. End of the day, most entrepreneurs look at the final product or the final service. But these sub layers, you need to be has to be solid and has to be disruptive in nature, especially in industries such as yours, to
yeah.
have a kind of a full stack or full experience for the end customer. So I think, Atul, I mean, great work that you and your team have put to kind of disrupt each workflow in the space. Atul, going into my kind of my second last question, maybe, is basically the theme of my podcast is what's next? I think you have disrupted multiple workflows, created a amazing experience for Bharat. What's next in this space? Would be good to hear your thoughts here.
See, as we started with this point that we don't have a centralized database of properties, I think there is a huge scope, and in fact, we are also working on it internally. That how you can digitize, if not everything, but at least to some extent, at least for tier one cities.
True.
Government is also working a lot in this direction. Recently again, Mr. Modi has started this scheme where he is giving iCards to that land thing in few cities, or you can say tier two cities. I've seen a lot of startups also coming in this space. So I believe this digitization or standardization of property database in India is something which can go a long way, at least if I say from the mortgage perspective, because the last leg of documentation or asset evaluation, which we have to do offline, that can be completely digitized. And then again, there is a huge scope in building technologies with bank, because mortgage, it requires a lot of it has a lot of work streams which still needs to be digitized. Legal, technical sanction of the property, and then end-to-end documentation, e-sign of the agreement. A lot of things can be done in this space, but the biggest I'll say is towards this asset evaluation side, which I believe if someone is able to crack it, then it can be a big opportunity.
Got it, Atul. I think valid points. I think as you mentioned, the government is now focusing on whatever I've read, they're using drone technology, kind
Yeah.
of mapping land and then
Yes.
obviously the assets on top of those lands. I think
Yeah.
once that core database is created, all of what you just said, right? The follow-up steps become much easier
Yeah.
and you can digitalize even further. I think
Yes.
valid points, Atul. I think if you guys are anyway doing the last leg in sanctioning the loan, obviously originating the loan to sanctioning, I think if you could help government, you could work with other players in building the database. I think it'll help. It's a win-win basically for all in the ecosystem.
Yeah, yeah. So we are actually working on it, and through your channel or medium, we can say that if someone wants to join us in this aspect, and any entrepreneurial mindset or person who wants to build this, let's have a cup of coffee, discuss it, and we can work together on it.
Awesome, Atul. So, listeners out there, it's a shout out from Atul. Anybody interested in this particular sector can reach out to him across, obviously, across cities in India. Need not be only metros, since Atul is building for Bharat. Atul, on that note, maybe my final question, last thoughts for future entrepreneurs, future leaders, government, your ecosystem players in this reality space. Would be great to hear your final thoughts.
See, I believe in India we have a lot of problems, and we have equally good minds to solve that problem.
True,
So I started my entrepreneurial journey quite late in my career, means after you can say 8 9 years. But I believe now people are more mature. At least
true,
I can see graduates from my college, just starting up after their education. So. Yeah, it's a good place to be in India right now. A lot of innovation happening. So I'll just suggest, future budding entrepreneurs, that if you have an idea, it's always good to try it out. Means you can talk to people, you can try it out. And today is the means this was told to me someone, and that's the reason I shifted to India. Means I was told that for an Indian there are only still there are only two places where he can grow very fast. One, obviously, US, because it's all will always be a land of dreams and all those things.
true,
And secondly, India, because today India is growing very fast. So I'll
true.
just say people, if you have any idea, please implement it. And if you have any kind of shyness, or if you are afraid of it, don't worry, please come to us. We want good people to join us, as I said earlier. And we are very besharam in that to say every time. Means good people always invited. Please come join us. Let's build something together, and let's grow India together.
Brilliant, brilliant note, Atul. Thanks for that motivating note in the final phase of my podcast. I think listeners out there, clear message. So I think huge scope in India for future entrepreneurs to build some disruptive solutions, which can be built for India and then obviously sold to the world. So on that note, Atul, thanks a lot for being part of What's Next with We. Pleasure to have you on a Sunday.